This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by Squarespace. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. Get your free trial and 10% off your new website at squarespace.com/MacVoices and use the discount code CHUCK. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's that time again where we start down the road to Macworldiworld 2014, and there's nobody better than to start us down that road than Mr. Paul Kent, the guy who runs the show. Paul, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Happy New Year, Chuck. It's great to be with you. This is my first interview of the year for Macworldiworld 2014.
Oh, I love to hear that, Paul. I love to hear that. And you say Happy New Year. This is probably the first year in a long time you got to have a Happy New Year instead of being under the gun.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, moving the show out to the end of March this year has really afforded us a lot of benefits that we never knew about before. You know, it was always difficult with developers trying to get products done when the show was the first week of January. Even when the show was into February, it was difficult, you you lose that time around the holidays, then you come back and you got to hit things running. But moving out until to the end of March, 27 to 29 is when we are. It's awesome. You know, we've had a wonderful December. We got the alumni registration done. Over 15,000 people registered in the first week, so we're just totally excited about that. And general registration just opened up this week, and so, yeah, everything's really cool.
Yeah, and Paul, I have not heard a single person, attendee or exhibitor, say, "Oh darn, I wish it were the first week of January." So this is a really good move.
I think it's really going to work out well for someone. It's there's not one week through the whole year that's perfect. This week is pretty darn good. Some people are going to have spring break, not everybody, but some people are going to have spring break. But like I said, we were the first week of January for how many years? And if that wasn't a deterrent to getting people to come to the show, I don't know what else would be. So people who want to come to Macworld, come to Macworld.
So let's get into exactly what Macworldiworld is going to be this year, because interestingly to me, you keep saying Macworld, and I'm trying to be politically correct and say Macworldiworld. How do you prefer it to be referred to?
It's definitely Macworldiworld is the name of the show, but I know when I'm talking to you, and a large part of the audience that we're talking to, through the Mug Center and through your podcast, are going to know the show by its traditional, Macworld. They don't call it Macworld Magazine, they call it Macworld. They don't call the show Macworld Expo, they call it Macworld. So, the name of the show officially is Macworldiworld. When I'm talking to friends, I feel I can take a little bit of liberty, but when the great unwashed, it's Macworldiworld.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch a number of conferences right now go through what you've already gone through, try to sort of change their identity for being the great unwashed, to appeal to them, make them understand what it is. We all know what this is and why we want to go.
Well, there are so many events now. When we started doing Macworld 30 years ago, this is the 30th anniversary of Macworld this year, it was a very unique time in the tech industry. It was a very unique time in the events industry. Macworld was really the first event that breathed that concept of community as to why you would travel around the country, around the world, around the state, to be together. You got to know people. And for 30 years, it's been this meeting place of people of like minds. We've gone through many roller coaster rides of, is Apple going to make it? Is Apple not going to make it? Will there be a show next year? Will there be an Apple next year? We've gone through so many of those, but one of the constants over the years has been this foundational group of people who they love Apple technology. They love getting together to talk about Apple technology, and Macworldiworld has provided them that venue, that meeting place to come together, see new products, learn from each other, learn from experts. This is the 30th year we've been doing it, and we've never been more excited.
Paul, how do you think about Macworld? How do you describe Macworld? Because it's part trade show, part conference, part exhibit hall, part, I don't know what, but it feels unique among the events that I attend or have attended.
I appreciate you noticing that. And over the course of the years, it's changed as to what it is. I mean, we have these core components. We have an expo, a trade show floor where people can come and go shopping. All of the exhibitors are on there. Most of them are offering some kind of a show discount. We're also a place where so many manufacturers and developers are offering products for the first time, announcing products at the show. The emphasis over time, as you might imagine, has really gone to a large part to app developers. I mean, that's really where all the interesting things are happening these days, is with what's going on with not only iOS 7 apps, but also in OS 10 apps as well. So we've built this area that has evolved to support those types of exhibitors, often not very big companies, but they want to meet with the press and they want to meet with their users and they want to find new customers as well. So our expo floor has evolved over time. Another core component has been education. We've had this very, very vibrant conference. About 2,500 people will be taking training from us this year. That's a huge technical conference. Everything from everybody in one room for some of our visionary keynotes and kind of larger, more common education sessions to breaking out to 5 breakout rooms where we dive a little bit deeper into some vertical topics. So education, product discovery, and then there's been this whole social networking concept. You come, you walk the floor, you take the classes, and then at night, almost as many hours as you're on the show floor at night, you're kind of doing the show, so to speak, with the people that you meet into the evening. And there's a tremendous value add. And it's a really interesting thing because over time, there was a point in time where people said events, why do you need events? We can all do Skype. But clearly, the value of a face-to-face relationship between a manufacturer and a customer, between a teacher and a student, between potential business partners, between investors and companies that want to be invested in, it's a different realm. The water finds its own level, and there's a place for all of it. Online training certainly is wonderful for many things, but some people learn better in face-to-face training when they can go up to the instructor afterwards and get their questions clarified or listen to the questions of other people in the audience. It's just a different mix, a different approach to something. We've been doing it this way for 30 years. We're adding a few new things this year. I mean, we're going to be broadcasting from our main stage room, so our keynotes and some of the bigger sessions, people will be able to enjoy over the web if they haven't been able to come to the show. But the core of what we do, when you ask the question, what is the show? It's product discovery, it's education, it's social networking, and it's community. That's how I describe the show.
And on the social networking part, I think it's very interesting because even social networking conferences I've gone to, you have the attendees and you have the speakers. And the speakers either are, off in a closed area somewhere, or they are there just to make their speech and then they take off. And when it comes to this show or this conference or whatever, everybody hangs around, everybody mixes. You're as likely to see someone that just did a keynote on the show floor demonstrating a product or just talking to people as you are to see them at dinner or a party that night. Everybody comes and stays and interacts, and that just makes it unique.
I would attribute that to the vibe and the kind of history of the Apple products community. I mean, this is a very inclusive community. I mean, if you think back to the days of when BMUG was just starting out, or the Boston Mac Users Group, CEOs of companies trying to find their way would come themselves and do demonstrations and answer questions, and it's just part of the heart and soul of how the Apple products community has always worked. The heroes of today's developers were the superstar developers, of yesteryear. And the style of running a business and how you treat a customer and how you interact with a customer has long, deep roots that has to do with, breaking. I mean, you could go to say that that's really the vibe that Apple has promised us for years and years, that there's no walls, right? It's empowerment to everybody. And I think our event for 30 years has done a really good job of capturing that and offering that to people.
This edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use the discount code CHUCK. That's my first name, Chuck. A new year, but a message with some updated urgency. You need a website. Whether it is for your business, your hobby, or just your thoughts, the world is passing you by if you don't have an online presence. Now you could go and use one of those other services who put their name in front of yours, or you can go and get your very own slice of the web with Squarespace. If you like the Squarespace branding, that can be part of your identity, and that's fine. But you also have the choice to get your own domain name that is all yours and still enjoy the benefits of Squarespace. Benefits like the templates that make you look good right out of the gate, and the automatic device adjustment that makes your site look good on any device, no matter what the size or platform, and the automatic scaling of your images so the photos of you at the Grand Canyon look good even on a small device. And it isn't easy making the Grand Canyon look good on a small device. And did I mention the customization? That's the key. Other services also have templates, but they are locked in stone, and unless you're a coder of some accomplishment, you can't chip away at the stone. With Squarespace, All you need is the mouse or trackpad on your Mac, and you can change an almost unlimited number of key design elements so your site looks like yours. Not like mine, not like hers, but like yours. And that's just the beginning. You'll hear more about Squarespace in 2014 from me, but from now, why not get a head start with a free, full-powered trial account at squarespace.com? Then, when you're ready to claim the site for yourself, take 10% off with the code CHUCK. That's how they know I sent you, and that's important. And if you sign up for a year, you get the domain name free. And that's important, because this is your identity. Don't share it with somewhere else. Make it yours and make it with Squarespace. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this edition of MacVoices. Now, you said for 30 years a couple times, and I don't want anyone to get the impression that you've rested on your laurels, that you haven't changed anything. To my way of thinking, from the first Macworld I attended to last year's Macworld is just it's a different. The values are the same, but the logistics are different and better. They've evolved, and they still offer me an immense amount of value, no matter which part of the conference I focus on.
Well, I appreciate you noticing that as well. You know, the event, it does evolve. We have great foundational concepts, like I mentioned, but, you know, things like using Apple technology to make someone's registration experience better, easier to register online. Easy, you know, we used to have long lines because the technology wasn't there to get people registered with a badge on and into the show floor. It's so easy now. So logistically, you know, the event industry has kind of grown up and gotten more technically savvy. The show itself will always be a point of reference as to what is interesting in the Apple products market. We are a laboratory for how a lot of these products. We have developers come to us all the time, and they want to do projects together where they can test their product amongst our audience. And those have always been really interesting things as well. We're doing a lot with music and photography and film. So we have, you know, a photography contest this year that'll be going on. We've been teaching people about mobile video making, you know, for a while. Music has been a huge part of the program. And, you know, to your point before, those who compose the music and perform the music are on stage one day. The person watching that performance in the audience quite likely could be the person on stage the next year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So is it too early to ask you to give us a peek at maybe some of the key speakers or some of the key areas, or is that still evolving?
No. So the first thing I want to say is that the Macworldiworld.com website is up, and the about 75% of the agenda, we ran an open call for ideas. We had hundreds of people send in their ideas. We work very closely with our counterparts over at Macworld, the publications, and so we've put together a nice kind of foundation of what the event's flavor is going to be. It's been a busy year. You know, we had a revision to iOS 7 to iOS, and we have Mavericks, a revision to OS 10. So there's a lot to talk about the kind of like subtle features and how users can access these things and put them to work. So there's a lot of things going on there. A lot of the great features of the Macworld publications will be brought to life on stage. So the Mac Help Desk, Chris Breen will be doing that. Dan Warren will be doing the top iOS 7 tips to really help people unlock all the hidden features that are going on with their iPad or their iPhone. Dan Frakes is going to be doing the best of the Mac gems and talking about the various products that he's looked at over the years and kind of pulling out the ones that are absolute best. So the Macworld editors, which are always some of the most popular sessions, will be taking us kind of through the big picture. Importantly, Jason Snell, who's the editorial director at Macworld, he hosts one of our keynotes, and he hosts a stellar panel talking about the state of Apple in 2014. So a bunch of pundits get together, and Jason doesn't do this based upon fluff. I mean, Jason is very kind of no nonsense. He kind of gets to the heart of the matter. This isn't pontificating about what Apple should do. Nobody that's kind of around this industry enough knows to kind of extract or have the audacity to comment on what Apple should do. Apple's doing fine without our input. But he kind of talks about how Apple's playing in certain markets, and he'll have a great panel of industry experts who are going to help people really understand, if you're an Apple product user, here's what's probably coming down the pike. Here's what's successful, and maybe you can understand what is going to be of interest to Apple to continue to develop. So that's always a lot of fun, and that's one of our keynotes, and that'll be held on the Friday afternoon. All of the new features of iOS 7, everything from if you're confused about how iCloud works and how when your stuff is here versus there, or up in the cloud or on your iPad or on your Mac or on your phone, the nuances of getting that right. Renee Ritchie is going to lead a great session on helping people really understand how iCloud works. We have a session for people to really understand the secrets of how you can get more out of Siri. There's a whole bunch of things with Apple Mail in the latest version of Mavericks that attendees can learn from. There's been a revision to the iWork suite as well, Pages, Keynote, and Numbers. There's a lot to learn on all those things as well. So pretty much, there's no documentation with Apple products per se anymore. We're going to help cut through the red tape and get you the information you need to be more successful with the Apple products that you most likely have.
Paul, I hear a lot of practical sessions in there, not necessarily a lot of the artistic and a lot of the creative. And I know that artistic and creative have a big part in this conference.
Absolutely. So the areas for both kind of the prosumer, the people who are very passionate, you might not have quit your day job to do these things yet, but for those people who are really passionate about using their Apple tools for creative endeavors, we have a wonderful full-day workshop on iPhoneography. So if you really want to get top-notch advice, both Dan Marcolina and Jack Hollingsworth, two of the most trusted names in the iPhoneography business, are going to be holding a full-day workshop. Similarly, Michael Corbell will be hosting a session for videographers who, and Michael has done commercials for Porsche Design and, some award-winning films, all created using the optics of an iPhone or an iPad. So for people who want to do full-day worth of stuff on video editing, mobile video editing, we've got stuff for you there. There's stuff about music studios, building a music studio in your office. We've got all the creative stuff is definitely covered. Sessions, full day workshops. We've got a stage where we'll be doing some musical performances. I don't know if you remember, but we had a band competition last year, and one of the bands that won is called Exist Elsewhere. They are these awesome group out of LA that uses Apple technology in their performances and in their songwriting and recording. They actually have been going around the world around the country doing a tour, a lot of it in high schools, kind of talking about music production and the opportunities and the state of the music business. They're going to actually end their tour with a special performance on the show floor, open to everybody at Macworld. So that's just one of the musical performances. We'll have a lot more to announce as we get closer, but all of the arts are definitely covered.
And of course, that's one of the keys here, is trying to keep up with what all is going to be there, because you announced a lot of things now, but there's still a lot coming.
And there's a lot of stuff that'll happen over the next 3 months that we want to make sure is very timely. So if something important happens, we'll get it integrated into the show in an important way.
Great. Paul, there's another aspect to this. You all have really made, I think, the conference more affordable. There was a time that it was expensive because it was a pro-level conference, but everything has changed. And now attending the conference sessions and attending the meaningful sessions is a lot more affordable.
Well, what I would say is that we're probably still would be considered a pro-level conference in terms of the quality of education, but the content is aimed at a more of a consumer audience for really that passionate Apple fan, these kind of semi-professionals, like I said, people who may not have quit their day job yet, but they really enjoy using their iPad or their iPod or their Mac, for taking pictures or for making videos or for making music or doing creative art. So yeah, we've priced the event pretty aggressively. What used to be about $1,000 price point, the list price point now is $375 if you walk up. Right now, there's a little bit of an early bird special that's $275, and that's a pretty good deal for 2.5 days of what we would say is really the most interesting people to hear from in this industry. So that's less than $100 a day. The show floor, again, to walk the show floor, we'll have 2 stages on the show floor. The Macworld magazine folks will be doing the Macworld live stage. We have a stage with a bunch of performances and a bunch of special events that are going on. You get all that. If you walk up, it's $30. Right now, it's $20. But for MacVoices listeners, I got a special offer for you, all right?
Okay.
So if you register in the next 48 hours from now with the code Macworld14, doesn't matter case, Macworld14, MACWORLD 14. The conference, which is usually $275, you can have for $149.
Whoa!
And instead of $25 for the Expo Pass, it's $10. So we'll do this for 48 hours. We want as many MacVoices listeners to be there. They get to meet Chuck Joyner in person if they haven't done that before. Hey, that's big. That's big.
I think you just devalue the offer, Paul. Okay, so and this will be released on Wednesday at noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. So that means that you have 48 hours to use that code and get an amazing price on the conference and everything. And I really mean that. When you said that, I was thinking, okay, another 10% off. Wow, that's terrific. Thank you.
We try to take good care of our friends.
Thank you. Look forward to it. I can't wait. Of course, I say that every year, but I can't wait.
We have a good time.
And this time you've made me wait 3 months longer, so now I'm really anxious. So it's MacWorldiWorld.com to learn more, to register, and maybe if time permits, we'll get you back here a little closer to the show to talk about what has been added at that point.
I'd love to do that.
Great. Paul, it's great to see you. Thanks for the time, and look forward to seeing you in San Francisco.
Wonderful to talk to you, Chuck. Let's have a great year this year.
Absolutely. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. I'll be at Macworld iWorld. I hope you will be too. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, app.net, Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the Mac Voices Dispatch, to stay up to date with all the latest Mac Voices news from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com.